Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Do you struggle when painting subjects with very narrow value changes? What do you do if your subject is excessively dark? In today's video, I'm going to show you how I painted Ali. Whilst I had some really great contrast between the black and the white areas in this subject, I had issues with those legs against that sofa and had to use colourful blacks in order to give this cat a sense of form. Let's have a look at the video and I will speak about how I overcame these issues as I go along. Firstly, I changed my reference photo a little. In the original photo, this area here was as dark as this area here. So I lightened the value down this side so it looked as though the light is coming across from this corner. This solved my dark block issue I would have had if I had stayed faithful to the reference photo. To make those legs stand out against that sofa, I had to do this by varying my temperature. So I needed to make sure this area here was warmer than this area here. The last thing that I could do to help show separation of my cat from its background was to employ some very large brush strokes in the sofa. Remember, use your knowledge of the rules of painting to help you overcome any issues you may have within your subject. Here, I have changed my values, used contrasting temperatures and contrasting brushwork to solve my problems. These changes gave me a much more interesting painting than if I had just copied the reference photo. Let's have a look at my palette. I am using cadmium yellow light, yellow ochre light, transparent yellow oxide, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, transparent red oxide, transparent brown oxide, ultramarine deep and titanium zinc white. I mixed up a few other colours. These are a black red, a black green. When I mix these two together in equal quantities, it gives me my black. A purple, two oranges, a mid-green and another black green. Notice that whilst these two greens look very dark, because I have used different yellows, they will give me a different temperature. This green will be cooler than this green because this yellow is cooler than this yellow. It is very important that you understand the temperatures of the colours in relation to each other on your palette. I've painted this cat in 3 sittings. It's painted alla prima as I do not let the paint dry between the sittings. When dealing with a subject that has such dark values, you are best off starting with a warm dark colour. Here I use a lot of my transparent brown oxide just to establish the values and mood of the painting. It is much easier to cool down a warm colour than it is to warm up a cool colour. As this cat is backlit, I have a lot of warm sunlight, so it is easier if I establish that warmth first and then adjust as I'm going along. If I show you my first attempt, you'll see it's pretty much brown and white. I've used a little of the ultramarine deep here and there, but not much. Notice how I've predominantly focused on my values, temperature, I want it to be warm, and brush strokes. A lot of this brushwork here I intend to keep. Because the paint is so transparent, it just goes on in a really lovely painterly way, and your brushwork is really well preserved. If you are after expressive brushwork, try using a bit of transparent paint. If I leave this overnight, the transparent paint, because it is so thin, will have become tacky, so it's easy to paint over. When using transparent paint, you need to be careful you don't try to overpaint it with opaque paint when it's very wet. Otherwise, you will get in a bit of a mess and the transparent paint will be pulled up by the opaque paint. In my second sitting, I will start to pay more attention to my temperatures. This side of my sofa will be brown, so I need my cat to be cooler. I have therefore added an ivory black to my palette to give me more options for mixing cool colours. Remember, my ultramarine deep will still be my coolest colour on my palette. My ivory black will be my second coolest colour. Ivory black has a blue leaning, but it is not as cool as blue. It is useful if I want to make a cool grey that is warmer than my blue but cooler than if I tried to mix up a colourful grey. For my really black areas of my cat, I have mixed my black red and black green together in equal mixes. This gives me a very rich black. Where the light begins to bend around the cat's face, I have used this black green with a little white. Remember, this is my coolest green because I have used cadmium yellow. I have also used a little of my grey too in areas as well. Those ears are just my black red plus this orange plus a little white. At this stage, I've scratched the whiskers in, but they may need further adjustment at the end. For the body, I have stuck with a little of my rich black, my ivory black and my grey. Notice how warm that rich black looks against that ivory black. This is why you shouldn't paint black objects in black. See how flat this area looks on its own, but when it's put next to colourful blacks, see how much form the temperature shifts gives to the cat. You wouldn't get that if you just stuck to black and white. For the third sitting, I attempt to finish the rest of the painting. This whole area down here is actually quite dry at this point, so I can be really rough with that paint. I want to try and preserve that brushwork on the right as much as possible, so I need to be careful not to overdo it. For this sofa area on the far left, I am using my transparent brown oxide and my ultramarine. I'm picking each colour up on my brush and letting the mixing happen on the painting. You'll get more of a lovely broken colour effect if you do it this way, and the paint strokes will be more interesting than if I pre-mixed it and then block painted it. Notice that this area is more of a blue-brown than a brown. I want this area to be cool. However, I want these cat legs to be warm because the contrast in temperatures will be enough to lift those legs out of the canvas and give my cat a sense of form. I'm using my rich black, but I am being much heavier with the red than the green. For these light areas, I am using the black green with a little bit of white and cadmium yellow to lighten it. That touch of yellow helps separate it from the sofa. White on its own would not have been enough. Notice that bridging colour I have in between my white areas and my black. This is a mixture of this orange plus a bit of cadmium red where needed. As I then move into my white area, I lay an orange first using cadmium yellow and cadmium red plus white. Make sure you then have a clean brush when you lay your white over the top. Look how much the cool white pops against the orange. Had I not laid that orange first, I would not have got that effect. If I compare my final sitting photo with my second sitting photo, look at how much of that brushwork I have tried to preserve on the right-hand side. Remember, small brushes will not give you this effect. The more brush strokes you have, the more rendered it will look. So if you're going for something that looks rough and painterly, you have to try to do it in as few brush strokes as possible and then leave it alone. Don't fiddle too much with it. Lastly, I want to discuss painting those whiskers because this is the thing I get asked about a lot. I never attempt wet on wet painting for whiskers. I always give the canvas a few days to dry. Remember, whiskers are wider near the mouth and narrower near the tip, so this is how I have to try and paint them. Also, whiskers are never one colour. They will be affected by the light in their surroundings. It is unlikely from end to end they will be one colour, one value and one temperature, so you need to vary it. Here my whiskers had quite a bit of orange in them. They were thicker in this section and narrower in this section, lighter in this section, darker in this section. If you've already scratched them in, often you can incorporate this into their painting. I am using an ivory rigger brush size 0 from Rosemary & Co. When I mix up my paint, I put a lot of linseed oil in it. I want it to be really fluid as it will go on better. I mix up the colours I need and then paint them on. I will also use a really soft comber brush, mix up some of my rich black and brush over sections where I feel the whiskers are too strong. I want them to be subtle. If they are too noticeable, you've gone too bold and too light. Just use a bit of the rich black to correct it. I hope you have enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.